Hey, this is Chuck Worley with Worley's Home Services, with the host and founder of the show, of the 757 House Whisperer Show. We are here every Wednesday night from 6 to 7 p.m. to tell you guys about your houses, to fix your houses. Every week we got different customers and clients and listeners calling in, asking questions about problems in their house. We like to answer any questions, whether it's from the roof all the way down to the crawl space. We got some sponsors and other co-hosts that I bring onto the show so that we have experts in every single area of the house, a problem with the house. Obviously, I tell people all the time, houses talk to me, and the houses talk to the rest of the group too, just in different areas. So I want to go over our special host. Tommy, you want to introduce yourself tonight?
Chuck, glad to be on the air again with you. Is a perfect home guy, Tommy Hines, and I've been in the mortgage business for 21 years and specializing in providing the top 5% of lenders anywhere in the nation for anybody that you know that you care about that needs to improve their home, because renovation is getting more and more expensive, and to fix and repair your home and make it better than it was last year takes tens of thousands of dollars, and the average consumer doesn't have it. So we provide those solutions where we use the value of the improvement to fund the improvement, and that way you don't have to take money out of your retirement fund. You don't have to go to high interest equity loans. But there's so many solutions, and that's what we do. Seniors can get improvements done on their home and have no mortgage payment potentially. So we have more solutions than you've ever heard of. That's what Perfect Home Remedy does.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Tommy. I want to invite you guys to call in 627-7979. We got some trivia I'm getting ready to announce to you. While I'm introducing people, think about problems that you have in your house that you need solutions, from the roof, gutters, to sheetrock, to ductwork, to electrical, to plumbing, to crawl spaces, to moisture. Do you know that this is the most humid summer that we have had in, I don't know what the exact, it's like 15 or 20 years. It has not been, it's been hotter, but it has not been this humid in the last 15, 20 summers, man. It's a steamer out here, man. It has been, even, 70 or 80 some degrees yesterday, and I don't think I sweat more than this whole summer than I did yesterday. It was just, hot and humid. So when that happens, unfortunately, mold and mildew just kind of jumps out. I was just at a house over in Suffolk and Riverfront that had there was so much mold around her one vent in the bathroom, and it was one of the bathrooms she didn't even use that often, which was shocking that it was that bad. But anyway, so I want you to call in 627-7979. I want you to ask any questions about any problems in your house. This is the 757 House Whisperer Show. That means there's nothing about a house that my specialist cannot answer for you. I do want to announce the Justin with Pyramid Roofing is one of our co-hosts. Mike Davenport, CVP, Custom Vinyl Products, any windows and doors. He's actually putting some in for me. That's about the only thing we don't do, right? And then we have Albin with Albin Co. He does anything remodeling, construction, new construction, questions on that. Of course, we got Miss Cindy Rowell with Alpha Pest Solutions. Any pest questions or pest stuff she can handle. And then, of course, our buddy Jack Keller. He's our young buck of the group. Mike Davenport's our old guy, the long tooth of the group. I'm in the middle. I think I'm in the middle. I take the average 55. That's our average in the group. So, and then Jack Keller, he owns Legacy Painting. So, anyway, that's our co-host. Any questions about your house. 627-7979. You guys call in and ask questions.
And
I'm
Chuck,
going to announce the trivia questions, unless you got something.
No, I was just going to say, any callers that call in, Alpha Pest will do a free crawl space inspection anywhere in Hampton Road. So that every caller who calls in gets a free crawl space inspection, even if you're already using another pest company. She does things that you will not. You'll just be amazed.
She's nimble. She's more nimble than me. So I am we got a question from Jim that's calling in, but I do have a couple trivia questions. So these are old questions for us old people. So what are the dates of the 6-Day War? What are the dates of the 6-Day War?
You're not just looking through like Monday through Saturday, right?
No. This was
Tough break.
I'll give you a hint. It was around my birthday, so it was over 50 years ago. But I actually have a interesting story. I'll give you a hint on who was in it. Are my questions? Because we've got so much going on in Israel. The madness going on over there kind of made me think about Israel when I was looking for trivia questions, and this had come up, and I had known that there are people that attack Israel way too often, and I'm telling you, that is a tough group of people. I mean, they are fighting machines. I mean, it's outgunned, outmanned, and still standing for the last X amount of years. It's God's impressive. God is, if you do not believe in God, yes, they are truly amazing people fighting for their country. And I know I would, and I know most of my friends would definitely draw arms to protect this country. And I just respect that country and how they fight for it. And it's not because it's equal fights, because they got everybody against them. So my questions are, what are the dates of the 6-Day War? And who was in it? Who was against them? And it's not one country. It is not one country. Like, it's ridiculous. So my second question is, what was the most famous 17 words said by a president? The most 17 words, and I'll give you a hint. It was in the 60s. It was in the 60s. So it was a very famous and young president. Don't you say it.
I know. Yep.
I
had it on
17?
my wall. I had that on my wall with his picture with a flag, and I had that quote on my wall in the room.
Chuck is about the countries today, I guess, because those are
the world
those
needs
are
to
two,
live by, and the U.S. needs to live by those words.
Yeah,
but we're not.
We need to. Yes, that's a great way to say that. So anyway, call in 627-7979. Call in with any questions about your house. Me and Tommy are going to figure it out and tell you what's wrong with your house. All right. Well, let's go to Jim.
Hey.
How you doing, Mr. Jim?
Can I answer a trivia question?
You may.
Okay. I'm guessing John F. Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
What words have been said by a president that were more true and accurate than those 17 words?
Yeah. And I'm going to blow up the other one. I'm not sure, but I think the countries were Egypt and Syria.
You have a couple of them. There is like 5.
And I think it was 1967, but I don't know what the days were.
Yep. I think we got another guy calling in with those dates. But so you said you had some questions on water spots on your ceiling.
Yes, and what I think it is, it's my daughter's house, and they're all over. They're in the living room, and then she's got one in the kitchen. It's a 2-story house, and I'm thinking it's the HVAC. the pipes that go to the HVAC, and I'm wondering if it's. I went up in the attic, and there's no water in the pan, but I'm wondering if the dehumidifier of the heat exchange is not working, and water is getting down into those pipes down below on the first floor, and it's just sitting there in those pipes, and somehow that coldness is creating the stains on the ceiling. And well, that's all I'm going to say. You guys tell me.
Yeah, so you can't. So my rule is that you can't be God. When hot air touches cold air, you call this thing called condensation, which sweat, water, moisture, then mold, then mildew. Then it's a common theme, especially when you live in an area called Tidewater. It's so humid here. And then this year, like I said, it's just been off the charts on humidity this year. I mean, the heat index has just been crazy. The humidity, the dew point, it's just been excessive this year. So let me ask a few more questions that hopefully you know the answers to. But so I have seen, like, you have a 2-story house with ductwork running down the middle of the house. The ductwork's like going in between the second floor and the first floor ceiling. It's going through the floor of the second floor and the ceiling of the first floor, right? So the ductwork comes from the middle of the house, which is where the main trunk is, and goes out to the register. I have seen where you got drip marks from the right to the front to the back of the house, like drip marks, and then a mold strip, like a brown stain going down the middle of in between the joists where the ductwork is. Because the code is you do not have to insulate ductwork inside the envelope of a house. Now, is that okay? Yes. I mean, everybody does it. The problem is when you get heat from outside that penetrates the envelope in between the floors, that hot air gets in between the floors, and then what happens when it hits that 50 degree duct?
Okay.
Sweat, condensation. Yeah, you can't beat God. Like the math and the science of it there's no secret to it. It's hot touches cold, causes condensation. Like, you cannot stop. You walk outside, go out on the back porch with a glass full of iced tea. That outside of that glass, unless it's a Yeti, she gonna be sweating. I mean, it's just science, right? So a lot of times we'll see it right at the grill. And when that happens, typically it's because the boot, which if you pull the grill off, the boot has like a 1-inch gap or even a centimeter gap in between the floors and the duct. It's not like there's no caulk there. Where you really see that is in an attic space where it's 150 degrees in the attic, 120 plus degrees in the attic. So when that hot air infiltrates, so when the ductwork comes on and that 50 degree air is blowing into your house, so what happens is you have this thing called Venturi effect. So when you got that couple centimeters on each side of that boot, when you pull the grill down, you'll see that metal, and that's called a boot connection, where it fastens to your sheetrock. Well, it's normally fastened with screws, and 90% of the time, it's not caulked, it's not spray foamed, it's not. Nowadays, we have to get that tested, and I'm telling you, I've got a friend of mine that tests these things every week, and they have to do it. 90% of the failures, and they know they have to seal this stuff. 90% of the times that he fails the test is because they didn't caulk around that boot. So what happens? So you got Venturi effect. So now when we're up in the attic space and that 50 degree air is coming out of the ductwork, and you got that 1 centimeter, 1 inch, gap, that's the attic space air is around that boot, right? So what happens is when that 50 degree air starts blowing in at 100 100, 200, 300, 400 CFM through that boot, through that grill, it's actually going to suck the 130-degree air in the attic into your house. So now your system has to run twice as long. It has to overcome the heat that you're putting in the house when you think you're blowing air conditioning into the house. It's the science of the house is pretty. It's not a secret, right? There is a science to how heating and air conditioning is done. Thank goodness, with the EPA and the building testing that we're doing now in these new construction homes, they are really forcing companies to do the right thing. Now, we have always done CAD drawings. We have always done load calculations. I mean, back in 2001, I was doing load calculations on every single retrofit job that we did. I'm going back on duct systems I did 19 years ago that are perfect because ductwork doesn't change, right? So if you design it right, it's always going to work right. I mean, unless you get an animal or, moisture or rain, that, something happens to that ductwork and it's challenged, shall we say. But it's with the duct mastic and duct sealing and stuff that we do nowadays, everybody is caught up with that technology. So in the permits and, you got to pull permits on new duct systems. You got to pull, nobody ever did that. And, we've always done it because I didn't want to have to go back for free to fix it because something wasn't right. So
got a question for you. Does that explain what you're explaining right there? It makes a lot of sense. Is that why I see like mold or mildew on people's registers up on the ceiling sometimes?
That's correct. Yeah. So what's happening is that hot air is touching the cold sheet metal, right? Mm-hmm. So the sheet metal is, of course, a conductor. So it's going to get super cold. So if it's 50-degree air going past it, it's probably pretty close to that sheet metal wise. So that dew point is going to hit. So that hot air is going to hit the back of that metal duct at the same time that the 50-degree air is hitting the metal duct. So what's going to happen?
Sweats like a soda can.
And you know what else needs to happen? They need to call Worley's because you have a fix for that. Now, what is the fix that they haven't heard from you yet? Okay, what is the fix for that problem?
The fix is going to be spray foam. The fix is going to be caulk. The fix is going to be, it could be that the ductwork, if it's sweating there, it's sweating in other places. So it could be that you need a new duct system. Like I said, I just left a house in Riverfront in Suffolk that, it's a great duct, a beautiful house. $1 million house right on the water, like just 4 systems on the house. And every time we're changing out this equipment, this is the third, I think, system that we're working on. The duct system is undersized by 20 to 25%. And with these new systems, they're not as tough as the older systems, right? Because, it's kind of like cars were made a lot better in the 50s. These things are a lot more sensitive. They got a lot more sensors on them. They cut off easier because they're trying to be more energy efficient. They're trying to be – which is all positive stuff. But they're not just going to run and gun like these these units 25 years ago. Now they're going to stop. They're going to tell you there's a problem with the duct. They give me an example like the one I was just at. The ductwork was 12 inches. It was a 3-ton system, which some of you might know, 400 CFM per ton. So it's 1,200 CFM blowing through this 12-inch duct. The design now, which load calculations and stuff tell us, is you need 16 to 18-inch ductwork coming off of that equipment. Not only is it 12 inches, which is not, I'm not great with math, but 12 is less than 18, right? So all that air is not getting into the ductwork, so what's happening? All that back pressure is pushing into the cabinet of the equipment, forcing that cold air out of the equipment. So what do you think's happening to the equipment? It's sweating. It's got mold on the doors. It's got mold on the outside of the coil. It is a nightmare. So I'm telling her, look, the equipment's still running. Why don't we go ahead and replace the ductwork? Because trying to do the ductwork and the equipment at the same time, you're going to drop a dime. You're definitely going to need Tommy Hines for some money, right? So I was like, the equipment's running. We just, let's replace the ductwork now, and then hopefully get a couple more years out of the equipment, and we can change out the equipment later. But if you change out the equipment now, you're still, that ductwork is going to be worse. Like the equipment, the pressure is going to cause the unit to cut off. I mean, it's there is a science to it, right? It's not Bubba and Skeeter's heating and air anymore. If you don't have the science behind how this stuff works, I mean, you're always going to have issues. You're always going to have it. But that was a great question. We run into it a lot during the summer.
Well, she bought this house, and it came with a whole house warranty, and we had to replace the pool pump. Would this be something that a whole house warranty would handle?
No. Yeah. Warranty companies, hopefully nobody's listening that owns an insurance company. Have you ever heard of an insurance company losing money?
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah, so their whole job is not to pay. And I have friends in insurance. I love them all, but their job is not to pay, right?
And not to retrofit. They just repair or replace something that's defective in the list.
And this is just sometimes this can be just the ductwork's 10 years old, the tape came off, the mastic came, if it's not done up to, what I call the Worley standard, it will fail.
Okay.
But no. And warranty companies, I've never really heard a positive. Typically, by the time someone calls me with a warranty question, it's never a positive conversation about the nightmare they went through.
Okay, so who do we contact to get this fixed?
You could call us at 757-955-9415.
I don't have a pen.
That's all right.
Hey,
just call Worleys.com.
And we're going to repeat it throughout the rest of the hour.
Yeah, we're going to repeat it the rest of the hour, too. So call Worleys.com is the easiest way to get to us.
And those of you who haven't called in yet, there is so many things that go wrong with houses right now with this heat. So we're going to get to call in 627-7979. You can also text a question to that number 955-9415, and we'll be back after the next break.
Call us with some more questions. 627-7979. Great question, Jim. Thank you for calling. Thank you, Mark Dunn, for bringing us in hot with that great music. This is Chuck Worley, the founder and co-host of the 757 House Whisperers Show. I'd like you guys to call in at 627-7979. I want you to call in and ask questions about your house, any problems with your house, from the roof to the crawl space, everything in between. Call in. I've got some trivia questions that I'm going to ask. Jack will be to you in a second. Who was in the 6-Day War? And I told you it was before I was born, so over 50 years ago. Who was in that war? And there was a lot of countries in that war against, I gave you a hint, Israel. And then one of the guys already answered the best 17 words said by a president. And that is, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country, which is by far the best thing any president has ever said in our entire country. So,
Bush did have some pretty good ones himself,
There's an
though.
old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you."
Don't get fooled again.
If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, that was number 2. That was it's the second best.
Go down in history.
Yeah. God love him.
I don't think George had Alzheimer's then.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Well, he's painting now, so we'll
yeah,
see how that
painting?
goes.
Yes, we'll see about
Therapy.
that.
He's in therapy.
Yes, yes. Oh, we all need
That's
that.
good.
So, all right, I'm going to introduce the co-host is Justin at Pyramid Roofing, Mike Davenport with CVP Custom Windows and Doors, Albin at Albin Co. Remodeling and New Construction, Cindy Raw with Alpha Pest Solution, and, of course, Jack Keller with Legacy Painting. Those are our hosts, and we got one more.
And And Perfect Home Remedy, Perfect Home Guy, Tommy Hines.
Did you forget who it was?
I didn't know who that was. But before we go to Jack, thanks for hanging in there. I just want to comment about why 757 House Whisperer Show is a very highly respected show, because virtually everybody who's ever called into the show, many people have already had experience with Worley Home Services. They've had experience with Pyramid. They've had experience with what we do and how we do it, which is above average service at below average pricing. In other words, nobody overcharges in any of the 757 House Whisperer team. We provide the best value that you can have. So, custom vinyl products, windows and doors, that's the manufacturer right here in Newport News. He manufactures windows and doors. Why are you going to the big box store to get your windows and doors? You need to go to 757 House Whisperer.
They're made in China. They're made in Mexico.
They're made everywhere. They're made in
Newport
News, and that's why 757 House Whisperer is here. So let's go ahead and take Jack's call in Yorktown.
Let's go, Jack.
Yeah, I've got a question about a vacant house. My stepson's going to be out of town until probably January of next year. And so we're going to set the thermostat around 77, 78. We did that, and then I noticed the relative humidity was pretty high. I know 60% in the crawl space, you don't want it to be going over that. What about inside a house that's vacant? What should we be looking at?
Jack, I want to thank you for calling in and asking this question, because you are going to help hundreds of people with my answer. Because we run into situations all the time where people go out of town for a month and they just cut their daggone unit off. It's still going to be hot here, whether you're here or not. Like, if you don't have a dog there, some people keep their pets here or the parrot or whatever, and they got to keep it tempered. But then other people just cut their daggone unit off. So I'm going to use the example during the wintertime. Obviously, you're not thinking clearly if you go out of town and turn the heat off on your house when you leave in the middle of the wintertime, right? Because as soon as you leave, it's going to drop to 12 degrees. Every pipe in your house is going to freeze. Everybody knows that, right? I don't know that anybody has ever left their house that left their heat at the same temperature they normally do or just cut it off. They keep it at 60, 55. They just don't want it anywhere near 32, because what happens? Everything busts. So it's weird that we don't have to train people that, but we do have to train people on when you go out of town and it's 100 degrees outside, it's going to be 100 degrees in your house, if not hotter, if you cut the unit completely off. So what I would do is I'd go get a hygrometer, which is a thermostat and a humidistat, and you can get them for, online, you probably get them for $10, but the nicer ones at Home Depot, 30, 40, $50. But you kind of just set it on top of the thermostat. If you don't have one of these fancy dancy thermostats that, are as much as a computer sometimes, because they'll have outdoor temperature, they'll have indoor humidity, indoor temperature. So they're pretty fancy dancy, but I would just go get a cheap one, set it on top of the thermostat. Every house is different. So if it's a second floor, obviously hot, humid, it's going to be hotter upstairs on the second floor. So you may have to be forced to cut the thermostat down to 76, 77. I typically would start at 79, 78. I would not start at 80. 80 is you're going to start getting to where 60% humidity, we all know from listening to the show, when we hit 60% in the crawl space or 60% in a house, you are going to start introducing mold and mildew, or the potential of mold and mildew, into your house. What we have said before in the show is the death of a house is what? Moisture, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to keep mold, mildew, moisture out of the house. So this is a fantastic question, Jack. I would start at 70, 78, 77, and then start going down. Like your second floor, obviously heat and humidity is going to be more on the second floor. You may be forced to hit it to 76, so the unit's coming on a little bit more. But I've done this at my own house, 77, 78, even 79, you should be able to be in the mid-50s with humidity, which I would not would not be stressed about. You start getting up 58, 59, 60%, I'd start cutting my stat down.
The other thing, Jack, is that Cindy Rawle of Alpha Pest does free crawl space inspections. And when you're leaving your home that long a period of time, from now till next January, that's heat, and that's cold, and the extremes. So it's possible that having a professional like Cindy come out and inspect a crawl space to make sure nothing under there is going to be affected by that. In addition, did you say it's a 2-story house?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So
one system or two?
Yeah. Does it 2 thermostats, high and low?
No, it's only one.
Only one. That's not good.
That's not good at all. So you may be forced thermostat on the first floor?
Yes.
Yeah. So you may be forced to, have to cut that thing down to 77, 76, hopefully not 75. You just want to stay away from 58, 59, 60, I would get nervous over 57% humidity. And then the other thing, since your thermostat's not on the second floor, I would probably put the humidistat or hygrometer I was talking about. I'd probably set that at the top on the second floor, because what we want is worst case scenario, right? Okay. That's what we want to,
And what about if he calls Worley's and have you all come out and check the system too?
Yeah,
because
make sure
maybe
the system's,
give him a reasonable price on putting a new thermostat in.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you want to do. Make sure the system is running properly, because especially if you're only going over there once a week, twice a week, or twice a month to check on it, because you're going to be held responsible, Dad. Isn't that always the way it is? I got almost a 30-year-old and a 27-year-old. If anything's screwed up, of course it's my fault. Well, Dad, you were watching the house. The daggone water came through the ceiling. How is that my fault? Like, I wasn't even there.
Anyway.
And Murphy's Law, right? Murphy's Law. So.
Oh, yeah. So basically inside the house goes just like the crawl space side of it. 60%, anything over that, you're looking at trouble.
Yes.
Okay.
I've been in crawl spaces with 62, 63% humidity and not seen anything active, but that doesn't mean it's not there. So then other crawl spaces I've seen in the 40s and 50% humidity, and I've seen mold and mildew everywhere. So every house is different, and that's why we always recommend coming out and doing inspections and stuff like that. So
well, on my own house a couple of years ago, the upper part of the house is nothing special, but the crawl space is now 5-star. You guys did a really good job, I tell you.
Well, good. Well, good. Well,
there you go, another testimonial. See,
yes,
we got lots of testimonials for Worley Home
Services. I appreciate
Services.
that, Jack. That is very kind. Yeah. I appreciate that. It's good to have good customers out there. So,
and for the rest of you who haven't called in with your house issues yet, it's 627-7979, and there are some free certificates in addition to a free crawl space inspection by Alpha Pest Solutions. And those kind of benefits of listening to the show is the other reason why we want you to call in. Let us know what issues you're having with your property or with your neighbor's property. And like Chuck has said 100 times,
at least,
everybody who calls in, you are helping 100 other people or more in this marketplace who are too shy to pick up the phone and call in by asking your question, because it applies to most all of us.
Yes, it's very, very important. Very important to take care of your customers. Yep. So I appreciate those kind words. I didn't recognize Jack there. I don't know what his last name was, but he must be closer to Williamsburg. He said it was 5-foot crawl space. We pray for those. We pray for 5-foot crawl spaces. Well, I do have a couple questions of people that text in. I'm going to remind you, call in 757-627-7979. We had a couple people waiting that dropped off. You can call back at 627-7979. Trivia questions. What were the dates of the 6-Day War Israel was on one side, and there was 5 other countries on the other side. So call in about that, and then everybody already knows the best president statement. I do have a couple questions that people have texted me during the week. Had another call about moisture around the grills. So we already had what was that, Jim? I think that they called in about that. So we already talked about that, but it said the second one was, remember I told you this is the most humid summer that we have had in a really, really long time. So why is my ductwork sweating now? So the answer to that is going back to my simple, I try and make things as simple as possible. When hot touches cold, sweat and condensation happen. You can't stop math. You can't stop the science of that. So when you have a hot, humid crawl space, and it's 60, 70, 80, 90% humidity underneath the house, and that hot, humid air, 100-degree air, touches my ductwork that has 50-degree air on the inside of the ductwork, what happens? It's immediately going to start sweating underneath of your house, unless you have an encapsulation and something controlling the humidity in the crawl space, dehumidifiers, stuff like that. But you don't have to have that here. But typically, if we have problems with ductwork sweating, it is not the ductwork's fault. It's physics. Thank you. Yes, I said science. It's more physics, right? So thank you, Dave. Thank you, Damien. What I do is I surround myself with really smart people. Tommy, Damien, Damon. So it's real important to control the crawl space. The crawl space is actually the problem. I'll have people call me up, say, hey, I need a new duct system. I go out there, ductwork sweating just unbelievable, right? Just sweating like a pig. It's just sweating. So I go into there, and they're like, yeah, I need a new duct system, right? So I'm like, well, what's wrong with your ducts? You have bad airflow? No, everything's perfect. It's just sweating. The problem is not the ductwork sweating, the ductwork. The problem is the crawl space is hot and humid, touching my cold ductwork. So you're paying the heating and air guy to get cold air in the duct. He's doing his job, right? Well, that's not the problem. The problem is the outside air touching the ductwork, which is causing mold, mildew, condensation, sweat, physics. I had Damon over here holding up this physics sign. So math, science, and physics, So, so what we got to do is typically the only solution to that is to encapsulate the crawl space, which honestly makes the whole house a lot more energy efficient. The ductwork's never going to sweat again. You're going to have the ductwork's going to be in a conditioned space, which just makes the ductwork not have to work as hard to fight all the hot, humid air coming in. Just like I was explaining with the attic space, you got hot air coming in through the attic space. In the crawl space, you don't have that. You don't have that because it's all the same temperature. No humidity, perfect temperature under there. Not the perfect remedy, perfect temperature under there. So, Tommy, you had a couple.
I was going to bring something up about our senior listeners. Now, even if you're not a senior listener right now, meaning in your 60s, 70s, 80s, you know somebody that is. Neighbors, friends, relatives, whatever. And too many people are not getting their homes improved, repaired, insulated, insulating that crawl space like you just finished talking about. They're not doing it because they don't think they have the money, the budget. It's too expensive. This senior, I just had an appointment just before I came on the show over in Smithfield, and she is a recent widow, just lost her husband this year, and selling her home and going to downsizing. But the downsized home is more expensive. It's $410,000. She's going to have about $330,000 to get equity out of that house. We're going to put her into the new house. Her homeowner association taxes and insurance are going to cost her $500 a month. She's going to live on $500 a month housing for the rest of her life, and everything else is paid for, meaning she has no mortgage payment. She is she's got $100,000 equity that she's going to put in the bank to spend for health care, whatever she needs it for. It's there for inheritance as well. But people
she
don't
need
know.
A grandson?
Yeah, she doesn't. She's got them. She's already got those.
Daggone it.
But the other seniors that we've helped, we put together programs that your credit unions and your banks don't know a thing about. That's what Perfect Home Remedy is about. 95% of lenders don't know what we're talking about right now. And Perfect Home Remedy does. So we connect you to anywhere in the nation, lenders who can do what I'm talking about. Seniors can get their homes renovated, $50,000 worth of repairs, whatever it takes to update, modernize, energy-efficient heating and cooling systems, eliminating that mold and mildew from the ductwork. And they can get it done and potentially have no mortgage payments. Seniors have that option. For the rest of you, we use what is called a future value home loan. Whatever improvements you're going to make to the house is going to make your house more valuable when you resell it. And we can do those improvements based on the improved value of the house, not on the as-is value of the house. That's the only banks and credit unions that can only look at the as-is value of the house. They don't get money. One last story, Elizabeth City veteran. Okay, he bought a house in Elizabeth City, built in the 40s. It needed new plumbing, new sewer, new everything there. He's got a rotten Florida room, 16 by 24. He wanted a driveway. Long story short, he's getting $35,000 of improvement, even though he doesn't have equity in the house. That's what Perfect Home Remedy does. Now, it would have been a little less for him had he used somebody like Tommy and Perfect Home Remedy when he bought the house 3 years ago, because we could have put all that into the purchase loan and he wouldn't have come out of pocket anything at all. So that's why we exist. That's why I love being part of the 757 House Whisperer team. We make it affordable. So everybody who says inflation is making it not affordable for me, well, yeah, because you're paying too much for your utility bills. You're not calling Worleys yet, and you need to be calling Worleys. You need to be calling CVP Windows and Doors, Pyramid Roofing, getting solar. Putting solar on your house is a benefit these days, but you're not doing it because you don't think you can afford it. PerfectHomeRemedy.com is where you're going to go. Perfect Home Guy.
Tommy can get you the money. So we've got solutions for you on your houses. We've got solutions to make your houses more energy efficient. From, like he said, with Pyramid that can do the solar. We can do high efficiency heating and air conditioning systems. We can put in perfectly designed duct systems, doing CAD drawings and load calculations and duct testing. And we also have the capacity to do blower door testing, negative pressure testing on houses to find out where the house is leaking at. You don't want to fix something and not know where the problem with the house is. And what that means is, like we were talking about with the ductwork, the first caller from Virginia Beach, where his daughter's house was leaking and had humidity through, sweat and condensation in between the floors. The problem with that is that there was a leak in the house, and you got to find out where that hot air is infiltrating the envelope of the house. And that is the problem. It's not the ductworks blowing cold air. It's the infiltration into the envelope, the hot air getting into the envelope and touching our cold ductwork. And that's what causes the problem. We have those problems every week that we're solving for people. So I appreciate Jim calling in with that question, because that'll help some people.
And Cindy at Alpha Pest is doing free crawl space inspections for each one of you. Even if you're paying somebody $100 a year to come do your home inspection, call Cindy out for that free inspection, because she's solved problems. She's found problems.
So the answer to the trivia. Sorry to cut you off, Tommy. I wanted to get this trivia out. Here are the quotes. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Egypt, and Arabia. 55,000 men against 24,000 men, and Israel won in 6 days. That's it. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining our show.
See you next Wednesday.
All right, see you.
The preceding program was sponsored and paid for by Worley Home Services, who's entirely responsible for its content.